like the bigger picture. And I don't know if, at what point do you just say, okay, that's not my job. I'm not supposed to be, I'm not, they have to find that themselves, sort of.
So instead of just try this hat on. I'm not saying that it's a hat for you, but
Okay.
instead of saying that, is that how they're going to get here, or how do I begin, or what are they going to do?
Right.
Instead of that, look at them more as a blossom that has opened only so far in the spring, and it's as far as it's ever going to open, and
Mm-hmm.
you are a blossom that has opened more. You've
Further because of them. I got you. Yeah.
and it's actually really beautiful how far they unfurled.
Got
Because
you.
if you could look at their grandparents, you'd see that they were
Right.
more.
Blossomed. They've blossomed from there.
Yeah. So each of us are standing on the shoulders of blossoming giants. Because
Got you. And we each have a stage in that blossom or
yeah,
whatever. I
so
guess.
your compassion comes in when you can, instead of hoping they open more, you offer more compassion by actually trying to find a way to sit in their cockpit and view life from their blossom, like what it would look like to them inside of that, of this. If they were left in turtle, they would believe in NASA, or they would believe in
Right.
they would believe,
Right.
and that's okay, because not only is it okay, it's actually beautiful.
Yeah.
Just like we appreciate our child because he has an imaginary friend named Sven, and you have no idea how he came up with that, but
Correct.
really likes the Cookie Monster and rides a horse that named Hippopotamus. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Right. Right. Beautiful. Okay. I like the way you said that.
Yeah.
Because that's really been like such a struggle for me because, I, you can't go out and save the world, although you're doing a really, really fantastic job right now.
Yeah, to
Getting
save the world
a
is,
lot of people on board with you. It's great. And you're taking all of us to a higher blossoming level. I can say that for sure.
well, thank you. I do believe that there is something about, if I have good posture, those
Mm-hmm.
around me will also have good posture.
Yes.
And so
Beautiful.
it kind of works that way in consciousness. Like, if your consciousness has a good posture, then those around you will improve. So I guess I'm actually now gonna take it back and say, I want to change what I just said, because you could help your parents by having the best posture
Posture. Got you. Ah,
that
beautiful.
would make them naturally open up, without, not by force, not by
Right.
the thought that they are broken, but instead simply by, wow, I didn't realize that my spine could be that tall.
Ah, that's great. Okay. I like that. Yep. I got you.
Yeah, good question.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Because really, that just totally made perfect sense. Nobody wants anybody to come at them and present all the reasons that they're wrong. And nobody wants to hear that.
Additionally, well, let's take it a step further. Additionally, to want your parents to open up and grow is to want them to believe that they are broken.
Ah, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Well, can I say something? It only goes so far. I
Definitely.
mean, we threaten them. You're, like you said, like all the time, which is absolutely on the mark. Sovereign people scare them. They don't want to be sovereign. They're happy in their little thing. They have to go to a dark place to get right, and they're not going to do it. So they fight you.
Well, and they
You
believe
can't set
in.
up a beautiful example for them to go, oh wow, she's doing okay. Hey, that looks pretty good. No, you are a threat to them. It's hard to present this in a really nice little bow. Yeah, I follow Mark Passio, and I have the same issue. I mean, if you need to get bitch slapped to wake up, I'll help. I'm good for that. But I can't hold your hand through this. I'm just not good at it. I hate that. I wish I was better. And I look back at the people who helped me wake up. Sometimes it's odd. They weren't actually awake people. They're on different levels of it. They had a
Right.
little corner, and something about them, well, clicked, and I said, well, I have to look at that differently. And so I started to examine, and at first it was resisting. I thought, God, those people are nuts, right? But they weren't. I was brainwashed. I was having to climb out.
Well,
And
but
that's
I
not,
think then, I think your parents, though, could also find like an awakening in the same process that you did, where you step back and say, oh, wow,
you can
I was
hope.
brainwashed. You know, they still have the ability to like be moved by somebody who has shown that or could show them it's not exactly the way they think it is. You know what I mean? But I don't know that me trying to force feed it to them is probably not it hasn't been successful yet. I'll put it that way.
I'm in the same
And
boat,
it's the same
obviously.
thing when you're saying you should be a Democrat or you should be a Republican. And if you're, because nobody's going to change because somebody's telling them they should, you know, they become stronger in their faith or in their belief, I think, actually.
They dig their heels in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to save face and resist any information if you don't present it properly.
Yeah, correct.
And everyone's different. Everyone, like I said, I was okay with a bitch slap. I don't have enough ego to go, hey, you know, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I was wrong. Oh shit, what's this about? You know, but most people aren't like that. They're just not.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you can't get in your very close knit family, then you know the other people you're trying to inspire, you can't do it. You can't come in an attacking way. I'm certain of, but you do want to scream like y'all got to wake up because we're out here by ourselves. We need some help.
Well, I'm pretty dark on that one. I think we've got what we've got. Some people have. This event, the COVID crap, has helped some people wake their family up, like Nathan Graham that I was speaking of a minute ago. Ashley, I think it was before you came in, but the only person who I know who's awake, he has a hard time with his family, as most of us do.
Yeah.
No one has to wake up. The world is not broken because someone in your life is not awake. There's nothing wrong with that person because they're not awake. Everything that you see here is functioning as it was designed. This world that we live in is absolutely perfect because it has people that are not awoken yet.
Right.
But those people just got real dangerous now.
No,
don't you think, James?
No, that you got really weak just now because you.
Well, they can throw your butt in jail. I'll go sit in jail, like you said. I literally, when I go out and I refuse to wear a mask, I already know I could like die in this situation. I mean, people are that intense now that I almost had an issue with a security guard at a credit union, and I just don't go out anymore. I mean, I'm
you mean you could die
for,
because somebody would hurt you, or you could die because of COVID? You're talking about
yes,
somebody.
and I have a neighbor who's would be perfect for the contact tracer person. And she's gonna call me in because I went outside without a mask. I mean, that's my neighbor.
You're not able to go outside. You're not able to go outside right now. That's how bad it is for you.
I think about it.
Are you able?
And I have to be compassionate for that person. I know.
I don't think you know because
I'm not sometimes.
Are you able to go outside? Are you?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Okay.
I can't hear.
You answered the question because you're not able to say that. You're not able to firmly say that's the stupidest question I've ever heard, James. Of course I'm able to go outside. You're not able to go outside. It requires thought first. It requires an electric.
It has risk.
From you.
It carries risk.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Before you go outside, you're already telling yourself, I don't know if I can go outside. You already have a universe inside that says you can't go outside.
That's good.
That's not broken. That's your choice. You have found
Well,
it.
let me rephrase that, James. I have never like decided uh, uh, not to go outside because my neighbor is who she is, and her cosmology is terrified of me and wants me in jail for not following these rules. I still go out, but I'm a homebody, and I'm like I'm perfectly fine to sit here with the dogs. So I mean I'm that too, but I'm not I'm not I'm not sitting in here shaking. I just know that's a possibility with my, and it's really testing my ability to be compassionate for these people. And that's
I
why I
think
listen to
that's
you.
where I think that's where there's a really that's the thing that I think is at risk, is that if we can't like still see compassion in every person we see, regardless of what side they're on, or that's when we have to step back and say, okay, maybe I shouldn't go outside until I can see compassion, you know, because you have to be in a place where you can still love the guy who doesn't agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you do that, then I think then it opens up where he wants to hear you.
Then it gets metaphysical. Your energy, you're sort of
Yeah.
inviting things. And I'm trying really hard not to do that because my mind goes into these very dangerous scenarios, and then I just have this huge, you know, fantasy life of very dark experiences unfolding, and I
Yeah.
need to just stop that and just go,
I know.
hey,
And you're spreading
Before you even
right now.
yeah, I'm sorry.
You want all of us to participate in this fantasy about you being afraid to go outside. And it's
no, that's not true.
contagious.
No,
It is
I don't want this on anybody.
and it's going to create that field to turn into something that you actually start to fetishize. You're actually going to enjoy this. You're going to enjoy how much of a victim you are, and you're going to enjoy how much you can disagree with people that tell you that you don't have to be a victim. It becomes an energy dump for you. You look for this
Ego,
you
it's
can
based in ego.
now
Is
drop.
that
I'm trying to explain it to you, but if you rather tell me what it is, then do. But every day we subscribe to a service, and my service on Mondays is a trash service, and a trash man comes and he picks up whatever it is that I have in this can, and we need that energetically from people. We need that because we don't have our own sovereignty in ourselves. So we have to look at others and say, they're going to come take me away if I go outside, because it allows us to stay the fuck inside and be scared. Create a bubble around us that makes it okay to be a slave to something that is ourselves, but in hiding. Grants us our own mask so we can put it on and be our own jailer. And then we get to go out and create elaborate stories that explain why it's not our fault. Because we need these elaborate excuses to try and hide the fact that it's not sovereignty we fear. It's not. It's vigilance. What we fear is vigilance because we do things like this, because we create elaborate stories that say, I'm afraid to go outside. Or no, James, what you said is not true because other people are there and they're going to come take me away. That's what you do because you're like, no, I need this trash service. Every week I need to dump my sovereignty. And that's why we have government around us. It's a service for our desire to not have vigilance. And
Wow.
as long as you were afraid, as long as you admit that you were listening to the Babylon, which means if you go online, if you interact with social media, if you buy into anything your neighbor says, you are interacting with the zeitgeist, with the Babylon, and it comes with services. One of those services is COVID. Another service is you're all fucking racist, every one of you. Hey, one of you guys has a penis, man. You suck. It's that comes with this service. It's a taxable service. And so I'm sorry if it sounds like I have a short fuse, but I can't sit here and play fantasy games with how terrified we are or how awful it is that we can't to wake up. It's our parents awoke the fuck up. We can't see it because we don't see how far they came. Our neighbor has woken up. Our neighbor has woken up as much as they fucking can. They're trying as hard as they can. And while we focus on how they need to open up more, that creates a slavery for us not to open up ourselves. It's an endless, vicious blockchain cycle of basically masochism.
Mm-hmm.
What it is a fetish for punishing ourselves. And it's not going to get us anywhere. This system is perfect.
Preach, man. Seriously, that's so true. That's a good point.
System we're in. Nothing's wrong with our parents.
Yeah, you're right.
You're looking at a living evacuation service that's only going to be fed by the amount that we evacuate ourselves. And if you're afraid to go outside, you've got such deeper problems than COVID. You've got such deeper problems than all the lies or your neighbor. And that's something to work on. It doesn't mean you're broken. What's the first step of alchemy? And vitriol is calcination. That's when you look at something and you decide, this is fucking broken. I can't go outside. Or wake up. Or I'm living in a town where I have no choice, but I have to buy food from a bunch of fucking weirdos that wear masks all day. All of those are calcination. Every step of that is a calcination that grants you the ability to go, hey, this is an opportunity for vitriol. And vitriol is going to require, you're going to have to build a fire because you're going to be sweating because it's time to burn some calories. But that's the corkscrew of alchemy. And that's how we raise up. I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a dick. I probably sound like a dick, but this is what it's like if we're going to do this. This is what it'll be like. So.
Nobody wants to ask a question now. I'm just kidding.
I have a question.
Yep.
So it's Caprice. I give my kids that blessing, Lord bless you and keep you. Lord make his face shine upon you. And I used to go to church, but I've stopped going in the last year. And ever since that Lord God stream, I feel funny about doing that. And the kids still ask me, can I have my blessing?
Yep.
So I say it, but I say it without saying the Lord, and I don't know what I should be doing. What in the Bible is true, and we should still be repeating that stuff.
Even if everything that I've speculated about Lord technology is true, it still shows God's plan in requiring a sensei to be here to kick the shit out of us. And so when you give that blessing, even if you use the word Lord in it, just know that what you're referring to is the sensei of the world, the spin coach at the YMCA, the sparring partner in the ring with us, the person that cares for us so much that they're willing to make life uncomfortable for us while we learn something that's really important. So Lord itself becomes this is going to sound so bizarre, guys, but if you really, really look at Lord, the sacrifice that Lord is making to be this evil, awful crucible of ass kicking is really quite a huge sacrifice it's making, because it's saying, I'm going to be the eternal villain, and I'm going to be such a badass evil villain that no one will ever give me credit for that, and I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to do it. So even though you look at God as separate from Lord, I hope that you can also see how vital Lord technology is in God's divine plan, and that our own consciousness opening would require this Lord just as much as it would require us to participate in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does to me.
There should be nothing wrong with using the Bible. It's such a beautiful potluck event of consciousness. I'm sorry, what I'm trying to say is that the Bible brings people together that would not have necessarily been brought together through work or through school. It's a really vital. If the Bible wasn't there, there would be a Bible there. Because you need this spiritual uh, uh, central megalith to even if the megalith is made out of cow dung, it's still. And I'm not sorry, I'm not trying to say the Bible's. What I'm trying to say is that even if that central thing isn't really exactly what you thought it was, or it's pretending to be something that maybe you thought it wasn't, what's important is all the people that have gathered around it. And so as long as you approach that circle with the confidence that, hey, here's the system that here's what I agree with, and here's what I don't agree with. And me spending the calories to decide what it is I agree with and what I don't agree with is actually what I'm bringing to this potluck. These are all the calories that I've spent because I spent a lot of time thinking about this. And I just think that a royal bloodline maybe was inserted in this story. I'm just trying to give an example. It's like, and so maybe that's what happened. Or I just think that Romans 13 just kind of shows that in order for the Bible to become more prolific, it sort of had to take one for the team and say, go government. And it should be, it shouldn't be something that's shunned at your church. It should be considered, here comes another point of light. Here comes another aperture that makes our church so beautiful because it's a matrix of apertures. It's not, can everyone get in the exact same pose? It's, look at all these apertures. It's a total, and that's the church you want. And that's a Bible, that's in the Bible. Marty Leeds is a perfect example of this, guys, if you think about it. The numerology aspect, the way he approaches it from the vibrational numerology of it is exactly, I think, kind of showcasing the beauty of the Bible, but also through your own cosmology, your own vector, your own aperture. Right now, as we're quiet,
I really think this is
that's God. That right now, I'm getting to you, but right now, I've said this a lot. Silence is an uncorruptible word. If I give you silence, you can't twist that. There's nothing you can do to change that. To me, the Bible is the Lord's book, and silence is God's book. It's just to me, guys. But
Yeah,
to
that's
me,
good.
God is a listening, and you can only listen through silence. You can only truly emotively listen to somebody, but through silence. And so when I think about what God's voice sounds like, I describe it as every voice in the universe unanimously being silent at the same time, like listening. That's what God's voice sounds like. It sounds like listening, like infinite listening. And that's why I think that when you're really trying to look at God, not the Lord, but God, there's no way you could possibly have a book that could ever encapsulate that. The best you could come, I think, would be to look at the stars and just look because you're just ingesting the starlight. You're just letting it fall. Anyway, I wanted to get that out because it's just how I personally see that cosmology.
You have a way of putting words to like my feelings. It's so beautiful. Thank you, James. Seriously, you give my feelings words.
Thank you.
Really, it's amazing. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
this information really bridges a lot for me as well. Like at some point with, you know, the Hermetic principles and morality, right and wrong, etc., and focusing on that, people lose the back end of that. I think they think, oh well, this is black and white, this is this way, therefore that's that way. There's no framework for continuing on. I mean, I think this is where all that judgment comes to its head. It's very interesting, because I mean we need to continue. I mean, people do terrible things in this world, and we know that revenge is wrong, and we have to open up our minds to the possibility that people can heal. Like really, really bad people need the opportunity to become human at every aspect, even more so than, I guess, people who consider that they haven't done wrong.
If you look at the world through energy, like electrical energy, I don't know how wrong revenge is, because revenge is a feeling of I would like to be equalized, right? Revenge is I've absorbed a massive negative charge, i.e., I have lost a shitload of positive charge. Something has come and bitten into my electrical field and eaten a giant chunk of it. And because of that, I would like to be compensated. Would you guys agree that that's what revenge is?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is going to sound awful. What I'm getting ready to say is going to sound awful, but there is, I'm hoping I can explain this right. There is, also, I have a stain on my shirt, and it's why I don't want to be on video. I don't feel like doing laundry right now. I'm going to do it, but there is a, built into the government, God, this is going to hurt. Built into the government is the belief that the meek shall inherit the earth. Built into the government is the idea that what is virtuous is let someone wrong you and turn the other cheek. There is a built-in system for uncompensated energy extraction that's built into you as a normal citizen. You've been told that it makes you a better person because someone will come steal things from you, and you will not be bothered by it. And I think that some of us who have a really strong character have learned to adopt that philosophy, much like a weightlifter would, or much like that person at the gym who's just way, way, way into fucking yoga or weightlifting or whatever. And they're just really good at taking one for the team. They're just really good at it. And so they end up being the fashion. The one who can take the most punches without being upset by it ends up being fashionable. And so we raise our kids up against that technique of, can you be as meek as this guy? Can you be as accommodating? And can you apologize 1,000 times today? Is what it is. Can you, if someone walks in and opens the door as you're maybe near the post office, are you going to say, oh, I'm sorry, like just out of fucking habit, just out of just habit?
Yes.
And that's what's been bred into all of us. And we're told that's good. We're told that's virtuous. We're told that's what you want to be, someone who does not seek revenge. But in the animal world, under natural law, revenge is a vital part of defense. It is the
Yes.
only system that protects you when you're out there in the world. If you
Yes.
do not show the violence that you are capable of, when someone does violence to you, they have made a massive profit off of you. And by you not responding, you are telling them this is profitable. You there, that was profitable. And you are breeding that. But by you pretending to be the one that is showing, what you're really doing is you're breeding those people to exist around you. And so there is a flaw, and this is tough because it's deep in the New Testament. It's tough, man. This is tough surgery. I'm doing as best I can to explain this. It's cleverly weaved into.
Well, they want us to externalize our responsibility and adopt victim mentalities, and then the whole retribution thing kind of falls in line with that. When you went to natural law, I said yes, that's it, and I'm a dog trainer by profession. I just love the way a dog engages. You watch dog behavior. They don't allow they don't defer a bad act. They give you in real time the appropriate response to a violation on them. So, and that's what's been stripped away from us. We're not allowed to. We're not allowed to defend ourselves. We have to defer that to a policeman or even like the trash. The trash man comes and picks up our damn trash. Well, as a sovereign, like I mentioned earlier in the conversation, where that was like the seeds of where was important to me, why I became awake was through sovereignty and taking responsibility for myself. And I don't like to defer my responsibility on any count. You had a thing the other day, and there was like 3 points you made that were so synchronistic that it was like freaky. And one of them was about butchering your own animals, butchering your own meat that you eat. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm in the process of setting up, mostly because I want to feed, I don't want to watch my dog starve to death. And I do eat a little bit of meat. 5-10% maybe of my diet is meat. So I need to take that responsibility for the dispatch, the growth, maintenance, and the slaughter of that animal if I believe in eating meat, right? So I haven't got there yet, but that's where I'm headed. I'm setting up a meat rabbit situation, and trying to get to myself to that point where I can take responsibility for my own meat eating, right? And my own dog ownership. Yep. I'll shut up now.
No, all this is vitriol. And every day when we wake up and we find calcination, we're not going to fuck up and say, oh, I found a flaw in myself. Man, look how flawed I am. I've got these stains on my shirt. Look how flawed I am. Instead, we look at it as, I have stains on my shirt. I have calcination. I will begin my vitriol. I am beginning another spiral. There's, at the top of the spiral, there's going to be another calcination. There's always going to be another calcination waiting for us to refine ourselves more and more. And actually, but by looking at it like it's a flaw, the state didn't install that. The state didn't say, oh, I want you to think it's a flaw. I know we think that. No. We send our kids to school because it's comfortable for us to be here, to hear that someone else installed this flaw in us to make us retarded. I'm talking about this to stunt our growth. someone else installed the notion that we would stop working on ourselves, and that's not true at all. This is how we commit sloth without having to take the responsibility for sloth. Is that we look for a service that will come. There's a service that's offering us, hey, I will give you absolution from your sovereignty, and I will charge you this, and I will charge you this. And we've agreed to it. We've said, yeah, that sounds like a good ass fucking deal. I would like for you to be the excuse for why I can stop calcination, why I can stop my alchemy. And the government's like, I will provide that for you. I will do that for you. I will. You can tell people that you had no choice, that I forced vaccines on you. And we're like, yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that. It sounds insane, but that's actually more accurate how the synergy system works. Because we wanted, the service requires our evacuation. And the evacuation ends up leading to the system that we have now. But that's what a service is. It's an evacuation. If I pay someone to come butcher my animals because I don't want to do it myself, I want to evacuate. We call it delegation, but delegation is just fucking glitter. It's lipstick on a pig. Delegation is abandonment. Yes, you can do really good delegation. You can delegate something exactly to the right person, and they can do a better job than you could have done, but you're still abandoning that task. You are. It's okay, but you are. And that abandonment over time leads to sloth, because we realize I don't have to invest my technology, my belief technology 24/7 in my child. I can abandon that for 8 hours a day. It's a lot of work. It's so much work. And when we compare it to what other people's are doing, we're like, I don't know why I'm having to do this. I could be paying into this mortgage instead of making a lesson plan over the truth of Christopher Columbus for homeschool tomorrow. But we wanted a service that said, yeah, I like that service. That service sounds good to me. It's government is our crutch. It's not, government isn't beating us with a pimp cane. We have crawled into the cuffs of government, and we're looking up at him going, hey daddy, you'll never leave me, will you? That's happening. That's what's all around us. But it's so disgusting to us that we've subscribed to another service to make us realize, to help us forget what the true relationship is. And I can prove it because this entire world works off consent. If it's true that the elite wanted to enslave us, I guarantee you, all of us would be looking at each other in tiny veal cages, staring at each other through the eyes right the fuck now. We wouldn't be an internet all over the world, raising our own farms with our own guns, with our own silver, with our own intelligence. If they wanted us enslaved, we would be in fucking cages right now. They don't want us enslaved. Something is different. That's not what's happening. They want you to constantly be discerning yourself. They want to make it difficult for you, so you'll wake the fuck up and move.
Well, they have to get us to consent, and they have to condition that consent. And they've normalized this bizarre condition. I mean, and we're naive to it. It's been what I was told was normal. Nice people do this.
Can an evil person only hurt you if he gets your consent?
I'm responsible for,
No.
well, that's a good question. I'm responsible for my feelings. I always get in trouble for that when I tell that to people. I'm not responsible for how you feel. If I say the N word or whatever I'm going to do, you're still responsible for your reaction to that, just as I am.
But yeah, they do. They got to have your consent. Yes.
If anyone objects to this, if people want to stick you with a poison, and they will only do it if you let them, are they evil? The answer is no. It's not. Are they trustworthy? No. But
not necessarily. But
did God tell you when you get here that you're going to be able to trust everybody? Because that, remember when I was telling you about how meek is built into this system, where you're supposed to not want revenge, you're supposed to not want meek. There's something else built into this system, and it's called blind trust. You've been taught from the moment you were born that you're supposed to blindly trust things, especially authority. Anytime you see a 6-point star that's shining, as long as it's shiny, you're supposed to trust that. You're supposed to trust anything in a uniform. Trust anything that's following a procedure. Why would we be given freedom? Think about this. Why would we be given freedom, and why would we be conditioned to automatically trust? So think about it. If they really wanted slavery, we've already started that. I'm gonna hit mute off because somebody's doing something, making a lot of noise. If you guys need to talk, just unmute yourself. I just had to do that because there was some background noise. But think about this. If you live in a world where they wanted to enslave you, and you were already born with a propensity to automatically trust things, clearly you know that we should already be enslaved. Now, take it further. Who the fuck would want you to have discernment, freedom, sovereignty, and vigilance, but start you out in a place where you are constantly in a state of trust, where you've been taught to blindly trust? I'll tell you who would want you that, and it would be a sensei, right? It would be you want to be a SEAL? Do you want to be a SEAL? Put on this weight vest and run 20 miles. It's like, this vest is 50 pounds. Do you want to be a SEAL? Put this vest on and run 20 miles. It would be easy for you to say, this guy is a brutal psychopathic torturer. He's madness. He's crazy. He's insane. We could say that about that trainer. And he would let us. He would let us sit our ass on the beach while the surf's coming in, while we bitched and moaned and cried about what an awful person he was. And he'll sit there silently, and he'll wait for you patiently. He will patiently wait for you. He will never take it personally. He will just sit there and wait. And if you stay long enough, he'll start spitting on you. He'll pull out his dick and pee on you. Whatever it takes to get you to move, he will do. And we're the one calling him the evil fucker when we're asking for excuse after excuse while we have to stay. And it's part of that same system that's been built in. There's been so many things that have been built in that, in my opinion, show you've been put in Dojo Earth to learn how to discern truth, to learn how to discern trust, truth, selfhood, and more importantly, you've been learning how to defend yourself. Like you're think about it. You're being attacked from all sides with propaganda. What is that doing? It's making you all your calories now are focused on camouflage. There's fucking jaguars in the jungle. They're all over the fucking place. I have to learn how to find them. Okay, I know where they are now. And as you get good at this, each of us get better because we understand where the dangers are coming from. We know that, well, I'm not going to go to a big city. We know that I'm not going to enlist in the army. We know that I'm not going to get that vaccine. So we're learning these lessons more and more in real time, which shows me that's why we're here. This is exactly why we're here. This is some kind of holodeck discernment tank. And all of our calories are spent in that. That's why we live in a world of lies. It's crucial. None of us would, like a rock tumbler, man. Imagine a rock tumbler that was just a bunch of pillows. The rock would never, ever get smooth. It's got to be why we're here. I can't think of any other reason, because I just look at, where do you spend all the calories? If you look at a building, if you look at an organization, if you look at a country, if you look at a man, you're going to know what's important to them by looking at where all their calories are spent, right? Where's most of their focus? Is James's personal appearance and fashion, is that his most important focus? No. But does James know a lot of shit about this one topic over here that no one else really seems to read about? Yes. It's okay. So that shows me he has a focus here. God has a focus, and he's showing you what it is. He wants you a virgin with amnesia, right? He wants you a virgin with amnesia where you instantly have to rely on someone else to live. You're a baby. He wants you to learn to trust a parent as a slave, to where you're a slave to that parent and you believe anything you say. Then he wants you to slowly be lied to. Then he wants you to slowly learn how to take care of yourself. Then he wants you to fall. He wants you to be devastated. He wants your heart to break. He wants you to be lied to. He wants you to be deceived. He wants you to be ripped off. He wants you to have all these lessons, and he wants to have people tell you, well, if you were a good person, you would never ever entertain revenge, and you would always bend over and take the COVID butt plug. He would want you to be surrounded by all this shit, just like a sensei would, right? Just like that, just like the SEAL trainer would. He'd want you to go through all this, and at the end of it, I think you're going to come out and you're going to get a huge high five, and you get to look back and go, how well did I do? And I don't care at this point, you can speculate how you want. How do you want to feel when you get there? Are you going to come back going, well, no, I believed in everything you told me. That's why I'm wearing a COVID mask. That's why I have this Black Lives Matter shirt. That's why I've turned the other cheek. And that's why I all these things. You'll come back to God, and that's what you'll do. Yeah, I did everything the zeitgeist told me to do. Now think about that. How's that going to feel? How is that going to feel? Because I have a feeling that some of you, if you chose to do that, might say, I'm not very proud of that. Fuck, really? Oh God, I thought that was you talking. And God's like, no, dude, why would I do that? What, bloodline? You cut your end of your dick off. You thought I wanted you to cut the end of your dick off. You thought I told you should inject 72 aluminum rapes with wait, swine? Did you say swine parts? Okay. Aborted fetus. Wow. You thought I wanted that. Just ask yourself, what is that going to feel like? And I ask myself this all the time. I picture myself going to God at set, right? When I set, and God saying, James, you didn't listen to a fucking word. I gave you this Bible. You didn't listen to a fucking word, man. I told you verbatim what to do and you didn't do it. And I picture myself there. I've already had this conversation with him. I picture myself there. And I picture myself telling him, here's my adrenal map. Here's my endocrine system. You know when I'm lying. You know when I don't. Here's the doubts I had about this. Here's the doubts I had about that. Here's the years I went to school because I was so afraid I was going to do you wrong. Here's why I majored in religion. Here's why I said no to that one person at that one church. Here's why I said yes to this person. Here's why I did this. Here's why I questioned this. Here's why I read all these fucking books. Here's why I tried to change this. Here's why I changed that. And I get to do that. And at the end, if he's going to say, how fucking dare you, you were wrong, it's going to be like, yeah, man, I was fucking wrong. I was fucking wrong. You're right. What do you want me to do? Yeah, I can go burn in hell. I can shovel piss and shit the rest of, well, yeah. I came, I saw, I fucking got it wrong. What, I get it. And I'm okay with that. Here's what terrifies me is I think about all the people that get to that point and all they were doing the whole time was evacuating themselves to what everyone was telling them to do around them. And then they just did that. I picture what that feels like in their heart to go, oh God. It's like you show up at school for the science fair and you didn't tell your parents about the science fair. You didn't do anything. And you show up and all you've done is you took a toilet paper roll and you removed the toilet paper and you cut it and you folded it and then you drew little black lines on it and you said, this is an Indian canoe. I spent weeks working on this Indian canoe, and you set it down and you try and pass it off as your school project. It feels like that, except for it's God. Except for it's God. And you're just like, oh, I fucking phoned the shit out of this end, didn't I, God? And at that point, it wouldn't even matter if you were punished, right? In other words, you would feel so just shitty. You would feel so shitty that the punishment wouldn't mean anything. In fact, the punishment would make you feel better, you know? That's my cosmology, guys. I'm not even saying I'm right. Like I said, that's my cosmology. However wrong I am, I don't want to phone it in, man. Anyway, I didn't mean to talk that long, but if anybody's got any questions or whatever, just let me know. I'm gonna pour some coffee. You'll see me. I'm gonna unpin this because I don't want you guys to watch me walking. Put to sleep. Hey, don't forget, guys, I muted everybody because there was noise in the background. And so if you've asked me something, it could be that I didn't hear you because the mute's not on.
I think it's interesting to hear all the ideas about what are we doing here, what God wants us to do. You know, being raised in church and going to church for 50 years and just assuming everything they were telling me, and I'm going to go to heaven forever. That never made sense to me. Well, what am I going to do there forever? So I'm just really enjoying all these other ideas about why we're here and what God really wants us to learn.
I read Revelation again last week, and the 144,000 people that are said to be collected and spared, they're basically people that have listened exactly to the zeitgeist and done every single thing the zeitgeist has told them. That's who the 144,000 would be. And what do they get to do? They get to spend eternity heralding God. That's what it says they get to do. They're told this is your reward. Is for the rest of eternity you get to sit in a circle and sing your praise to the Lord. And I maybe it's some symbolic thing, maybe it means something else, maybe it my point is, guys, is think about it. Who's more likely to want to spend eternity giving praise, venerating, dedicating your life to something else? Who's more up for that task? Someone like you, or maybe someone who is still clinging to the narrative right now? It's right. Isn't it the COVID mask? Someone on their knees in a COVID mask who's maybe removed their genitals because they're toxic, and maybe removed their eyes so that they wouldn't see color, and maybe took their ears and made it easier for the speakers in the trees to only speak into them, so they've added some fancy internet headphone thing. Who's when you're on your cell phone, wouldn't you imagine that heralding something would sort of look like this, just complete devotion? Do you want to be one of those 144,000?
I have an idea on that.
Yeah.
Now, oftentimes, you said something in one of your videos about don't meditate. You know, I went through meditation and whatnot, but make your day your meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So during meditation, oftentimes time is like an abstract. And just today we were questioning, or you were questioning math. No one questions math or statistics.
Right.
So why wouldn't we question time as well, as if it's just another part of the ambiance of the dojo? Because what I'm saying is, during the meditation, that's as close to inner peace, or what I could imagine being in the presence of source energy might feel like. I don't know where I'm going with that really, other than how do we know that time in the presence of anything after this is what we perceive it to be now?
Yeah, I would say that, and guys, if someone else, I don't want to step on anyone if someone else was going to say this, but I would say that time is nothing without ignorance. The good word ignorance, not knowing, agnosis. Agnosis is not knowing, gnosis is knowing. Time is a movement of a zipper, right? It's changing, sorry, agnosis to gnosis, agnosis to gnosis. You guys ever unzipped a file? You know, you've downloaded a zip archive from your computer and you decompress it. It's unzipping. What's hidden inside it is becoming visible. So imagine God as omniscient, omnipotent, but let's just stick with omniscient, all-knowing. God cannot function in time because God is all-knowing. God cannot have an unzipped, there's no such thing as a zipped archive. God doesn't have mystery, which is fucking profound. Omniscience doesn't have mystery. Okay, I misspoke when I said God doesn't have that. Omniscience doesn't have mystery. And I think that really goes to what you're saying about time, James, because time itself, technically, time is simply just not knowing. And we require a clock cycle to not know. And as long as we don't know, we're going to have time as a residual. It's here's what I mean. As that file's decompressing, you have time, but what happens when it finishes? There's no more time. Time is the decompression of that. So once it's unzipped, time stops.
You can say that.
I don't know. Time's crazy. I have difficulty even thinking about what time is.
You know what, I was thinking about time today, and I think about the time that I spent. You know, I'm 38 now, so it's probably about, 2001, what, 18, 19, when September 11th happened. And right away, I'm starting to call bullshit with a small group of other people. And not to dwell on that one event, but every event since then, until I just drove myself crazy, is like, how do you people not see this? Like, you could literally come to the table with examples and proof and links, and do you even realize this person said this? Well, let me show you that they did. Only to realize, hey, no one's listening. You're just kind of earning yourself a reputation because you're fighting City Hall, and that being the media outlets, where they're just putting a tinfoil hat on your head. Until I started to grow in that, saying, go ahead, put it on my head. I don't care. Give me it. I'll put it.
James, I lost you.
Yeah, you went mute.
James, we can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
Yeah, yes. For some reason, we heard you great. Then all of a sudden, it stopped. Just like maybe 4 sentences ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Basically, what I was getting at is went through that whole cycle of trying to convince everyone and convincing no one, maybe partially convincing some people, and then I just let it go. Kind of evacuated myself. I said, I need a new way to look at this.
Oh.
So I shut off the news entirely because I'm like, well, it's the same old Hegelian dialectic over and over again, different, whatever, different cause, different reaction, but same exact feeling. So after shutting that off, I guess I'm in this new, I don't know what I'm in, shut my mouth and listen, or I certainly don't care about that stuff as much as I used to. I'm focusing more on myself. And now I think I can somewhat start to impact the direct individuals around me just by making sure that my energetic field, like consciously doing so, like maybe even stopping to think about my dead father and praising all of his worth, or how do I look that day, or just being consciously aware. And then once I feel good about myself, maybe I set a brush fire of freedom in someone else's mind that makes them self-reflect, because isn't that what it's about? Helping them to create their own sovereignty. That's where I'm at right now, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not about helping other people find their own.
Maybe not.
Maybe it is just about you, but maybe I'm just saying maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe your quest to help someone else find their own sovereignty is really a distraction you need to seek sovereignty less in yourself, just less a little bit. It's a way of throttling our own engine down. It's kind of what I'm suggesting could be happening to us. We look for the most efficient way that we can satisfy our prana economy underneath, and our prana economy underneath has its own calories, and it's going to want to cut corners whenever it can. I that's why when I usually hear someone start to discuss the intricacies of one side versus the other, I'm realizing that I just don't give a shit anymore. I just like, it's just like, to me, all I see when I hear that is I'm witnessing, and this is not actually in a degrading way. It's just that it happens to be that when you jingle keys in front of a baby, they respond. They kind of just, it turns out everything else that's happening all around them, they can just focus on that. And we look for self-soothing all the time. 24 hours a day, we look for self-soothing. And so we find these opportunities to self-soothe without having to admit that we're self-soothing. And that's the kind of deep, selfish activity that we have in ourselves that it's really difficult to admit. We don't want to admit that we're self-soothing nearly as much as we are. And we prescribe to government, we prescribe to Hegelian dialectic, because what is that, right? It's the tick-tock pendulum, right? It's the watch on the chain, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. We say, oh, you're forcing it on me. You're forcing me to watch this. How dare you force me? That's really what's happening. That's really the heart of how all this works. But it takes some serious balls to look at yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, I fell for a pendulum. That's really all it took, And I'm not even saying you're doing that, James. I'm more just talking about, it seems like this has been our biggest pitfall. We get lost in others instead of focusing on ourselves. Guys, there's not even a word called selfful. There's not even a word. There's not even a positive word that says James is full of himself. That's a bad phrase. James is full of himself. You could even try and save it positive. James is full of himself. James is so full of himself. No matter how I say it, it sounds awful. It sounds like I'm degrading myself. That proves how society does this. It wants you to be bred to evacuate yourself, right? Never ever think about revenge. Never ever turn the other cheek. The meek will inherit the earth. No man will get into heaven with it's or it's hard. Actually, that's a good one. But my point is that into the system has been bred trust 100%, trust blindly, and take it like a man, right? Take all that stuff. Self, full of himself is bad, but full of himself is when we are not evacuated. That is when we are at our most optimum. That's when we're at our most generous. That's when we're at our most successful. It is when we are full of ourselves. And that's kind of what makes it a Prometheus moment. Because if it wasn't expensive, if everyone else wasn't trying to make it expensive by saying don't be full of yourself, only those of us who want it the most are willing to take it despite all the expenses that other people are claiming it's going to have. That makes the prize more valuable. It makes it more of like an elite thing, because most of us are, no, it's not worth that to us. We don't want the flack of having everyone look at us with jealousy. We don't want the flack of having everyone look at us like, how dare that person become a Prometheus and rise to themselves. In fact, we call that person Lucifer and satanic. We call them bad names because they had the nerve to rise up. Guys, I know it feels like that I always sound like I'm the devil, but I'm trying to tell you that this suppression mechanism is part of your growth. It's part of what makes you such a badass when you claim it. Why? Because no one was ever going to breach this line of being Prometheus, because we don't want our fucking livers tore out by a raven every day for the eternity. It sounds so terrifying to us that we're just like, no, I don't want that fire. I don't want it. And if I take it, everyone's going to call me Lucifer. And if I ask for it, everyone's going to say I'm satanic. And so everything is against you. Everything is against you to see if you'll claim it. It's your soul could burn in hell if you claim this and you weren't supposed to. That, guys, it doesn't get more fucking dramatic than that. Your entire soul burning for the rest of eternity rests on whether or not you will be Prometheus. It's that, if that doesn't strike you as, okay, there's some serious something here, either way, like whether you should take it or not, it's you've walked into the casino and you found the giant fucking jackpot. That's the one. That's the biggest one, is this whole Prometheus thing. And to me, because I don't rely on the zeitgeist as much, I look for energy to tell me where the truth is. And I see a giant shitload of energy around that. I see a shitload of energy around the Holocaust. I see a shitload of energy around the Bible and the technology of belief. And I see it all around Zionism. Where I see this energy, I always find the deepest, richest truth. And it's always surrounded with shame. It's always surrounded with, if you're going to look into Hitler, it is going to be expensive for you, James. You are not going to be able to tell anyone what you know about Hitler, because the caloric intake will just be too expensive. So if you're going to read this book about Hitler, it's only going to serve you. It's only going to hurt you on the exterior. It's only going to serve you interiorly. That's why most of us won't read Mein Kampf. I'm not suggesting anyone should read Mein Kampf. It's actually kind of a boring book. I'm not suggesting that. My point is that it's so expensive to walk in that door that only the initiated, seriously, only the self-initiated would dare to even go there. It's the same lesson I've been teaching with Building 7. I'm suggesting Building 7 and the World Trade Center were empty. That's a serious fucking accusation to make. But if you walk in with me, you see this whole other world that's full of compassion and aperture. And it's just really It's profound. Even if it's wrong, it's profound. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, right? I mean, you know, none of us are right, but all of us are apertures.
The other day you had said that putting somebody up on a pedestal is the worst thing you could do for them. You can see that when you think about all that different energy coming at you. I mean, who's even really strong enough to deal with that, consider that, try to digest it? So
Yeah.
if silence is the only undisputed word, maybe we just work on filling ourselves up, and maybe we don't need to prove it to anyone. We just feel it for ourselves and just let that energy grow and change us and see where it takes us. I mean, why do you have to proclaim it? You know, why do you need to put it on Facebook or Instagram? It's only going to be criticized anyways, so that's going to be hard to deal with.
Yep. All those are exercises, you know, good or bad. How profitable is it if I do this? How unprofitable would it be if I did that? It's there's a reason why most gurus live on mountains, right? There's a reason why they don't have a place in town, you know? Fucker wouldn't be a guru, would he? I mean, it's just he would be a really, really, really fit guru, because he would be constantly struggling to find the silence every day. And I think he would eventually lose. I think that they would eventually lose. And that's why hermits are hermits. It seems like there's a bell curve where you approach truth, you're on this side, you know, and you approach truth and you start to see all the lies. But as you do that, you gain a crowd, you gain an audience, you gain brethren, is what I'm trying to say. People are in that same line, that they're looking for that truth. It's the rabbit hole. There's everything's thickets, and they have thorns and briars, and we're kept in a perimeter that has a hole in the middle, a rabbit hole in the middle. And all of us have gone down that rabbit hole and have come out and said, fuck that place. All it is fucking dark. All it is deep. It's a fucking sphincter. I'm not interested in that. And to me, here's what it feels like. So instead, you start to crawl through the thickets. But each of us are going our own way because we have to. There's no path. There's no path out of the thicket. So we have to crawl underneath it, you know, and scratching our back up. And the deeper we go, the more alone each of us get. Each of us become more alone the deeper we find this truth, which means we talk less, which means we listen more, which means we bleed more, which means it gets harder because no one's around to give us credit. No one's really there saying, look how far you've come. If anything, people are like, where the fuck are you going? Look at all the blood all over you. Why are you fucking leaving? Don't you understand this rabbit hole has some sweet ass fucking gravy? It's the opposite. It's the opposite of all the truth leaders you see are all of us are simply. I told someone this the other day. They were like, I'd like to start writing about truth and working on truth, but I just don't know enough yet. And I explained that people aren't actually looking for your truth. They're looking for your authenticity as you move through the truth. And so Jordan Sather, people want that kind of authenticity. Most people want that. Most people want someone to be only as authentic as he's willing to be with things and not go any further. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm just slamming him. It's just that he offers a much more sugary kind of truth where everything's taken care of, where all's good, man. He's not the leader. He's simply providing the service that everyone else has. As you leave the truth market, as you proceed through the thickets, it'll get smaller and smaller. At least it seems that way. So I'm going the opposite way of the rabbit hole. I think most of us are. The rabbit hole is the Hegelian dialectic. but in a bad way. The Hegelian dialectic is actually a good thing. Did you guys know that? It's actually a good thing. It's how do I define truth? I'm going to look at the best parts of it and the worst parts of it, and then I'm going to see as much as I can see by making sure I'm focused on both sides. It's just been twisted in this way. But we wanted it to be twisted because we didn't want to. I don't want to kill my own chicken. That's going to hurt. I don't want to grab that chicken and chop its head off and then go butcher it. And oh, I'm looking for a service that'll do that.
Hi. I'd like to take a look at revenge a little bit more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I envision revenge as more sort of like an act out of shame, shame of not being able to act in self-defense or being vigilant when the time came, when because very like not very often is one completely blindsided. So I look at, you know, maybe being violated as a lesson, and therefore, you know, if you couldn't act in self-defense or you chose not to, that's your lesson, you know. But after that, that's all just shame and acting out in violence. That's what I think we're conflating here. I mean, we definitely want to equate what happened to us, but that's why we have the higher thinking that we do. We're not completely based in aggression and emotion. We should recognize the karmic economy of not acting out of revenge, which is only going to cause more strife, in my opinion.
Right on. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I was just explaining how I felt about it is all. You know, it's just one aperture.
Okay.
Anybody got any questions or topics or anything? Just poured a cup of coffee, so it's a good time to ask. Christina, it sounds like you might be saying something. You guys have to unmute yourself because
Okay. Hi.
I was typing because I what this gentleman was just saying was similar to what we were saying earlier about the right to defend ourselves when you're talking about retaliation.
Okay,
And I was saying I was a dog trainer, and it's why I liked.
hang on one second, Christina. We'll get to you, okay? Okay. I'm sorry. I accidentally.
I'm okay. I didn't unmute myself. Now I am.
Okay. Christina was. I think Christina was actually trying to say something, but her volume was. There you are.
Yeah. I had muted myself, so. And I started blabbing.
I'm talking about Christina.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Christina,
We got multiple.
and I'm trying to give Christina the floor here, and she was talking, but I think her volume was so low that we couldn't hear her.
Okay. How about now?
It's still a little low, Christina. I can hear you, but it is a little
I'm
low.
so sorry. If
Oh,
okay, I'm just gonna. Is that better?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
great.
perfect. Thank you.
I was just curious. I don't know if this is gonna be totally off topic, but since you talk about ego, I mean Kanye West and I are the same age, and I have heard you said, I've heard you say you didn't know much about Kanye West.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just curious. I just wanted to let people know I'm a huge fan of Kanye. And because we're the same age, I kind of feel like, oh, he's kind of like my brother. Um, like we're, and I, having watched him over the years, I do feel like his heart is in the right place, and he's really, I mean, I know I'm hearing what you're saying about that whole Hollywood, and so who knows? I don't know. But I guess I've just always had this little tender place in my heart, and I do think that when the only reason I bring him up is because you keep talking about ego, and of course he has gotten into trouble for that. But you know, it seems like he would really appreciate what you're saying, because I get in trouble a lot for that too. Like whenever, like I'll see my grandmother and she's 93, and she'll be like, "You are just so wonderful to them." I'm like, "Yeah, I am." You know, and she just frowns. You know, it's such a like strike down by lightning, and it cracks me up to, you know, I'm very sure that I'm as great as she says I am, but she doesn't like me to own that. You know, that's
Yeah.
something someone else should say.
Yeah.
I don't know if it relates at all, but the whole thing about the egoic field, I'm fascinated by.
Yeah,
So,
I get a lot of flack for that thought, but I'm gonna go to my grave with it. I'm gonna I don't care. I'm gonna go to my grave with it. There's so many people out there that are excuse me, that are willing and able to shame their ego in public and get credit for it. That I just find it necessary that I'll die on this hill if I have to. I will, because it's so gross. I had a lady the other day that told me, um, all ego is that you're squeezing your sphincter, and that you're angry and bitter. And I realized that I was talking to someone that felt that her life force was a squeezed, angry, bitter sphincter, and it I had to just say goodbye to that. It was like, look, I can't have you in my field right now. It's it, if we're gonna say no, ego's different than essence or self or whatever, what you're doing is you have to disassociate your identity. You're gonna have to tear your identity apart and say, no, here's the pieces. There's the id, there's the ego, there's the super ego. Here's all these different parts, and actually only ego is the bad thing, but super id, it's good, and it's good, and never gonna fucking win that way. You're never gonna outrun a panther if you think that a third of you has this huge problem because it finds itself too confident. It's like, it's so obvious. It's insane. And I have to keep fighting that because the will is so strong in us to bash the ego. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier about how we are looking for a service that will come by and allow us to delegate, i.e., abandon our own vigilance. We want something to hold us back. And a good thing to have, we subscribe to the service called ego annihilation. In order, that's the best thing we have going for us right now for keeping us, holding us back, is believing that we should run around with an empty tank. It's a tough battle. I get more shit than I get thanks for it, but I will keep fighting it because it's tearing us apart, man. It's why we're abandoning ourselves. It's why everyone gets down on their knees. It's why everyone is so quick to do that. It is because of how sexy we've made not having an ego. Thank you for bringing that up. It's so important.
Yeah, that's great. You definitely brought back the ego for me in a great way. Uh, it's like one of the most important things right now is to really have a backbone, to really persevere forward and believe in yourself. Uh, I mean, I know there's poison ego that exists for sure, but that's our job here is to refine ourselves, and that's a bifurcation, you know, because it's the ego, the self, the id, all that. You know, it's no, you're you, and that's it. Like, where is all this division?
I would say that SJWs are based in lack of ego. And I can prove it, because if you look at an SJW, you see that the person in the SJW crowd who wins has a mask on. In fact, you're not welcome inside of an SJW crowd under Antifa without a mask. And I'm talking about pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, anonymous was considered top dog. Whoever is anonymous is selfless. Selfless wins the day. The selfless person will give everything they have. A selfless person doesn't value things. They don't value identity. They curse identity. That's why you have gender dysphoria. If you've evacuated your identity enough to where you can be a woman or a man, depending on the schedule. But like if you open your school schedule and it says today's pizza day, and you have to be a woman, and if the reason why so many people were like that works for me is because they lack presence. It's because they lack presence. Every single blood vessel, every single blood cell you have has your DNA in it. It has your X chromosomes, your Y. It tells you who you are. One of the many things that tells you who you are is your gender. If you have to evacuate all 3 trillion blood cells to be able to believe that you can mute your gender and that anonymous is preferable. That requires a disassociation that's so bad that you'll end up vandalizing a city because Black Lives Matter, and it won't matter because you don't have an internal compass. Internal compass is why you were evil. That's what you're told. And your ego fuels your internal compass. And just like when you enter into shock, your body says, I'm not going to digest things right now. Things are freaking out. I'm shutting down all blood flow to the intestines. Please report to the stomach. All blood flow in the stomach. Please report to the muscles. And now your system has shut down vital parts of your living so that it can focus on damage control. Why? Because your body only has so much energy. And if you have a low ego, if you value anonymity, if you value gender dysphoria, if you value the toxicity of how bad you are, you have an incentive to step out of your cockpit and keep your ego as low as possible so that you're always uncomfortable, so that you're always worried about how sexist I am, or how racist I am, or how sinful I am, or how ignorant I am. And then you start to develop a masochism. When you run out of ego so much, some of us, in order to cope, have learned to enjoy it, learn to get off on it, turn it into a fetish. And then you start to see it in others, and then you find it attractive. And you're like, look at how much they hate themselves. God, she's hot. She hates herself so much. And you enter into this dark world. And then you start calling ego bad because it hurts. The more ego you have, the more shitty you feel because of what you just did. The more ego you have, the more your internal compass is lighting its own fire. And that means you're not going to be able to do things and feel good just because everyone else around you is doing it. Like looting, right? Just like looting. Who would be more willing to loot? I would say it's the person with no ego. Why? Because everyone else is looting around them and they're like, oh, it must be okay now. That's what they tell themselves. It must be okay. Why must it be okay? Well, because everyone around me is doing it. That's someone who they don't have a strong enough voice in their head that's yelling at them. The voices outside their head is louder than the voice inside their head. It's the same reason why they attack pride. Exact same concept, pride and ego. Those are the same thing. It's so crucial, man. It's so crucial you have that. That's why women don't love men anymore. That's why men don't love themselves anymore, because they're not allowed to have ego. They've been taught to keep it drained all the fucking time. And then when they fill it up, they feel adrenaline in their hands and they're like, oh my God, I'm violent. I have to let go of this energy. I can't have this energy. This energy doesn't belong to me. And they mistake the vibrations of the fucking blood cells. The blood cells are vibrating when they're charged, when they're active. And that vibration scares man now. He feels all that power and he's like, I can't handle this power. I need to subscribe to a service that's going to keep this fucking power out of me. And so we have ego annihilation. We have check your ego, bro. And we the very people that have no ego are the very people that have no oxygen. And we go up to them and say, how fucking dare you breathe? How dare you want oxygen right now? And that's why when someone has an ego attack, they never get better, because everyone around them tells them, how dare you complain? How dare you seek fuel? You're pathetic. And that's what we do, man. That's how it works. This isn't a speculation. I fucking know this because I lived in a wilderness camp with kids 11 to 14 and 15 to 18. And if you didn't solve this problem, you were going to have a serious violent outbreak between 12 young men. And I learned really fucking quick not to listen to a damn fucking word they said and just watch energy. That's how I know this stuff about the prana economy, because I realize this is all about energy. And you see the same thing at a dog park. You do. If you guys are good enough at a dog park, you know exactly what's going to happen at a dog park. You know it. You see it because you're paying attention, because you're logged in, because you have enough ego where you can simulate someone else's adrenals on top of yours. Do you understand what I mean by simulate? You simulate things in your head, you know? You simulate what 114 plus 17 is. You simulate that. You build a structured environment in your head and you start to create it. Some are visual, some are whatever, but you simulate that. You come up with an answer. You can only simulate through calories. The system in your body that burns the most calories is your brain. It's not your muscles. It's not. It's your brain. Your brain burns more calories than anything else in your system. And if you have enough ego, you have enough energy, you have enough life force that you can burn some calories right now. And you can burn calories on yourself, simulating yourself. Am I going to be okay if I don't have a banana? Or am I going to be okay if I don't get some sleep? Or am I going to be okay if I can't pay my rent? If you have enough ego, you can start to simulate other things. Is my plant going to be okay if I don't water it? Is my wife going to be happy if I don't do this? Is my child going to be safe if I send him to school? You start to have more ego so you can simulate other adrenals. That's what compassion is. Compassion is your ability to simulate someone else's ego. You're able to sit in their cockpit. Simulate someone else's adrenals. Simulate what it would be like to sit inside of this person's cockpit. Where is Caprice's cockpit right now? And I can picture myself as her as she's talking to me. And I can take the sound of her voice, the tone, the breaks she has, her body language, everything. And I can use that to build a simulation of her as best as I can. And then I can try and reach her by saying things that hopefully show, hey, I did a really try. I tried as hard as I could to simulate you. And all that requires ego. 1000% of that is ego. And some of us can simulate others really well. Why? Because some of us have that electricity. We have enough of that extra electricity. How did I get more electricity? I'm sorry, I'm making a huge assumption, but I'm claiming that I have a shitload of electricity compared to the average person. How do I get all this extra electricity, James? How the fuck did you get that? I don't walk around fucking dropping it every minute. So someone will lick my taint and tell me how selfless I am, right? Tell me how generous I'm being by draining my fucking cork, you know? That's why. The reason why I have more electricity than other people is because I value my electricity. Because I'm like, I fucking love this electricity. I want to send it in the right places because I don't get down on my knee and say, melanin matters, man. The fucking percentage of melanin matters. because I would never fucking do that. And because I would never assume or cuck for it, right? I've learned really quick that the less I cuck, the more energy I keep. I cuck for my wife, my boss, my neighbors, my law, my IRS, my everything, right? It's all negotiation. I'm not trying to say I don't cuck, but I'm trying to say that I make it as expensive as fucking possible for me and for someone else to get that from me. And I learned a long time ago that the people that I've known my whole life that value me draining my ego are fodder. And I'm keeping them in my life because I need someone to keep draining my fucking ego. I need someone to provide me with an excuse to stop thinking good about myself. And I keep that person in my life. But I can't take the blame for that, because then I would be admitting that I want to perform myself less. So instead I blame them, or I blame society, or I blame this, or I blame that. And I keep them in my life because they're always going to be going, hey man, drain your ego. You should not have more than 30% gasoline. If you want to participate in me, I'm going to make you feel like shit if you show up and you have more than 1/3 of a tank. And you can tell yourself the world's keeping me down, or you can admit I'm choosing to have these people in my life because I want to feel like shit if I have more than 1/3 of my potential in my tank at one time. When you were at 100%, that is the fighter in the ring who's willing to fucking die. That's what 100% is. You are willing to die for what's about to happen. I'm not suggesting you guys have to always be willing. That's not what I mean. I'm just trying to explain to you how this percentage works. 100% ego is I'm willing to fucking die for my will. My will is my fucking warrior, and I give it my life. It is my red fucking chief. That's 100% will. And the government does not want 100% will. They cannot provide you with a service if you have 100% will. And if you're asking the government, hey, look, man, I need you to keep me about 22%. I don't want to have anything above 22%. And the government's going to say, I can do that. Here's what we'll do. We're going to arm a bunch of evacuated people and give them guns and badges. We're going to give them patrol cars. We're going to give them more weapons than anyone else around you. And that's going to keep you at 22%. And you say, yeah, that works. And then you come back later and you're like, I'd like to be down to 14%. And then they're like, I can tell you how it's actually wrong to think good about yourself. And then you're like, go on, I'm listening. And then you're like, right? And the next thing you know, you're down to 18%. And then you're like, man, can I go to 9%? And it's there, right? Right? It's there. Someone's there just like, man, I'll come up with something. Just give me a minute. I'll come up with something. You know? It's like, hey, how about you drink aborted fetal parts? Too much? And you're like, oh. You're talking like Pepsi, right? Yeah. Man, it tastes good. and you're just like, if it has enough sugar, you got a fucking deal. But I'm going to get fucking ice, right? Of course you get ice. It's going to be that small, chunky ice. You're going to fucking love it. You're like, all right, straw. I'll give you the straw, but hey, in 6 months, I'm going to tell you you're a fucking bastard for using a straw because you're killing the environment. All right? And you're just like, man, I like this service. This is a good service. I know it doesn't seem that way. But it is. It is, because everything they do is through consent. It has to be that way. We underestimate our ability to lie to ourselves. The most powerful force in the world is your ability to fucking lie to yourself, man. Take it from me. I'm still doing it. It's such, man, fuck. It's such a good skill. It's one of the most amazing things a human can do, you know? It's like, well, alligator has its vicious claws, you know? orca has its strong dorsal tail. Humans, man, they can lie the fuck out of themselves. That's the skill, man. Imagine being a lion that lies to itself. Well, like, you can't even fucking picture it. Like, the amount of skill that would take, for a lion to convince itself that it's a gay roller skating cheetah, and like, it's you can't even fathom how it does it, which just explains to you how powerful we are. Like, how fucking, if we can convince ourselves that we're so terrible because of our sex, our creed, our religion, our thoughts, our ethnicity, our presence, our carbon footprint, and if we could convince ourselves we're that fucking bad, just, can you even fathom how amazing we would be if we were convincing ourselves of how fucking great we were? Like, picture a world where, like, we have ego day, where, like, for one day you get to, like, praise your ego. Like, I picture that what would happen is everyone would come home and there would be like 1,000,000 apple pies that someone baked you from people you don't even know or on your doorstep. That would be there, like, that day when you get home. You get up in the morning and, like, some banker has a note on your car saying, hey man, compound interest is like so fucking fraudulent and you've paid for this house at least 3 times. I can't sleep with myself at night. This is really fucked up. So I bought your house for you. Have a good day. It would be like that. And then you would find yourself competing. You would be competing with the Joneses, but in a healthy way, going, how can I pay this forward? How can I pay this forward? And then you're starting to look at world a whole different way. Like, I'm going to buy that vacant lot. I'm just going to put up a bunch of fucking birdhouses. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to put a sign saying it's mine. No, I'm just going to do that. And you're going to be living in a world that's surrounded by merry pranksters that are just full of fucking ego, that are going around just hanging diamonds from trees, like from fishing line. Just, yeah. How cool would it be to just be wandering and just see a diamond and that kind of stuff? You see pockets of this. In the world, there are little pockets of this that you find sometimes in the world. You'll find the right people, you'll go to the right event, or you see these little glimmers of how this could be true. If you're like a professional musician, like really good, and you're touring, you kind of have a taste of this life because you're living in a field state, your flow state, that's so strong that those around you are naturally elevated by your presence. And because of that, they no longer are afraid of their own sovereignty, not sovereignty, but their own vigilance. They start to see themselves as better people. They are allowed to raise their ego because yours, as the musician, is so strong. And because of that, you all end up creating this collective bubble called touring. This is called touring. And you enter the festival circuit and you begin to tour. And you were living in a meta bubble above civilization. I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced that or know what I'm talking about. I'm not making that up. That's a real life thing. There's a higher state of being where food, clothing, shelter, travel, all that's just done. It's just taken care of sometimes.
Like drug dealing.
Drug dealers have that too, because usually drug dealers, especially rave kids, right? The rave drug dealer has a bubble around him because everyone is using drugs to allow themselves permission to have their ego, to have presence of ego, right? And when you do that drug, when you do ecstasy, and you're with, it becomes very sexual. It becomes very sensual. It becomes very time-oriented. It becomes very tangible-oriented. You reach presence. Why do you reach presence on ecstasy? Because you're no longer telling yourself you don't belong there. You're no longer telling yourself, I don't belong in the moment. For a moment on ecstasy, you forget and you become in the moment. The reason why you have a DMT death, you have to become in the moment to process all your memories for rapture. When your pineal gland releases, secretes melatonin, and DMT or ecstasy inhibits your DMT inhibitors, you're secreting a signal that says, all hands on deck, everyone, we are reaching a state of presence, like ludicrous speed. We have presence. Remember the decode as the time, as you unzip a file, you were skipping ahead, you were stepping outside. So the entire process is now present. And so your ego has to fill up. It has to, because all 3 trillion of your blood cells believe in you right now. And they say, now is the time. Because every time if you evacuate 10% of yourself to the government, 10% of your blood cells are vampiric, like zombies. They're listening for a call. They're waiting for orders. If you abandon 17% to alcohol, whatever, it's all of us are going to do it. This isn't like, oh, it's just math, man. It's just math. But when you come back to yourself and when you fill yourself up with that, you know, it's 100% ego versus, I would say that most of us could not get past, I'm just making these numbers up, but like, you know, 37% ego might be the max that we could really truly reach. Because I'm thinking about like what it would be like if you lived in Atlantis, if you lived in Lemuria, where from the moment you were born, ego was encouraged. Your natural state would be closer to like 70%, right? And that would be a totally different human. Everyone would be a super athlete. That's true. Everyone would be a super athlete, because what is athletics? It's someone who's present in his body. He has full motor control. What does that require? It requires all those blood cells following their captain, which means they can't be abandoned. Everything has to be present right now. It's crucial. It's crucial for success. So that's why we prescribe to a service. We're afraid of our own power, man. We'd never stop. If we all had our own power, we'd never stop. It's weird that sucks, that we think that would suck, but that's part of why we're here. We like training wheels. Somebody say something.
Might be difficult for people to come to terms with how it even got this way. I think a lot of people have difficulty actually understanding how civilization even got to this state where we have this lordship, how that could have gotten to where it is. But there's a lot of missing links in history, a lot of missing keys that kind of make you realize that, I mean, there's a reason why we don't know how to properly even wipe our asses. We don't know how to dispose of any of our trash even. We're very recent here. We're not old. Our history is puddle deep. We are paper thin. I mean, there's very few of us who have actually looked deep into it, but it's even me. I mean, I have barely any clue how things got this way. And I have only theories, but pretty serious ones.
Well, I don't. I'm gonna push again that I don't think this place is broken, and I don't think that we're failing by being lazy. I think that we're allowed to be lazy because if not, we'd be having to be forced to do something. And that's not how we learn. Like the Navy SEAL analogy, the hardest part about this Navy SEAL trainer is he'll let us sit on our ass. It's the hardest part. He's going to do that. He needs more than someone who's going to listen to his drill sergeant. He needs so much more from us than that. It's much more than that. In fact, I want to bring this in because Billy said suggestions on grounding ego when it's charged in such an electrical way. And here's my suggestion. I think that it's uncomfortable having an egoic field. I think it's uncomfortable to all of you.
Did you say a field?
Field, an egoic field. Yep. For you to have more than 7% ego is uncomfortable. It's as uncomfortable as holding a 20-pound I'm sorry, a 5-pound dumbbell above your head. And it doesn't feel right at all. It feels wrong. And you want it to feel better. You want it to ground. And you will feel better if you dispel it. You will feel better if you release it. Not trying to be gross, guys. If you squirt, you dispel it. If you dump your pride, you dispel it. If you talk shit about yourself, you dispel it. If you're sarcastic, you dispel it. Why? Because if you start to be dishonest in some way, you dispel it. You spend pride by doing something shameful. And by spending pride, you're spending ego, which lets you let go of the ego. You dispel it because you burn it. You sacrifice it. When you drink and you have a problem with alcohol, you get to let yourself down. And by letting yourself down, you get to pull out 15% of your ego. That's helping you. It's doing you a favor. If you have a food addiction like I have, when I have a food addiction, I have to fight my food addiction every fucking meal. It fucking sucks. I'm not trying to say I have it worse than anyone. I'm just trying to say it's a really interesting fucking addiction because it's something I have to look at every day. And when I fail myself, if I buy donuts or if I eat bread, if I bring home a loaf of bread, I've failed myself. But by failing myself, I'm losing pride in who I am by draining myself to this ritual. And I don't mean to make it as innocent as bread. I don't mean to make it as innocent as that. Most of the time when we evacuate ourselves, we really let ourselves down deeply. We shame ourselves. And the amount that we shame ourselves, the amount that we evacuate ourselves is directly proportional to the amount of ego we would like to let go of so we can feel better, so we can feel more comfortable on this steady state of lowness. Because and it works the exact same way with your shape. If you exercise, you're in better shape. If you don't exercise, you're in worse shape. And unless you're truly if you have enough ego, you begin to exercise. It requires that amount of ego. Then you start to do these other things. And so it's even built into the system. This is a self-initiation program, if you think about it. This SEAL trainer is like, this is a self-initiation boot camp. This lasts 8 weeks, but every day only counts when you're running or when you're working, not when you're sitting your ass on the beach crying about how mean I am to you and how unfair this is to you and how no one should expect so much from you even. All that is helping you drain your energy body. It's nothing at all to fucking do with words, guys. I can prove it because your neocortex is 1/4 of a second behind your limbic system. And your limbic system, that's what's controlling that field. And it's like, I don't want this, man. I want to take my pressure down to 23%. That's too high. I'll go to 7%. How can I lose 18% ego right now? So you have to find a way to lose it, don't you? You have to have a prana economy where you can lose it. So you look for relationships, you look for people, you look for bosses, you look for situations where you can drain, you can have that ego drained. And you can't do it yourself, because that's too honest. At that point, you're entering in a different sphere of life where you want ego. So you have to have this. This is why it's so important to understand there's a limbic system and a neocortex, and these are separate systems. That's why when people start to talk, I tend to get, I'm sorry, when people start to explain the minutia of the chatter between left and right or this and that, I get bored, because I'm like, we're not talking about the energy. We're not talking about the truth underneath all this, which is, why do you want to abandon your electric field? And most people don't want to talk about that because it takes it back to them. And they're just like, no, no, no. I paid for the service that keeps you the fuck away from me, James. Don't you come in here with that. That's really what's happening. Is people don't want to see that they're responsible for their own field that way. So when that ego feels uncomfortable, it's a gift of ball. And you got to thank it, man. I know that sounds evil. I know that sounds fucked up. You're like, God, this guy wants you to thank ball. But realize how ball works. Realize how the Lord technology works. And go, man, thank you for all this power. I've got so much power that I'm afraid of it. That's how much power I have. That's a gift. And when you can start to be honest with how uncomfortable that power feels, that's when you can start to keep more of it. I had a dog named Butter, and he had a big problem with other dogs being comfortable around them. He's a little guy, and so he would snap, and he was kind of a dick about it. And the thing that cured him was I finally had to throw him into a dog pen where there was like 40 dogs. I'm talking about a giant dog park in a big city. And once he was inside, he freaked the fuck out for like 3 seconds. And then he realized he had no choice. He realized freaking out is not going to do anything. And he had no choice but to acclimate. And he was just perfect after that. He had the best day. And from that moment on, he had faced that trauma, and he was able to overcome it and resolve it, which means his ego, as a little doggy, his ego was able to increase from 2% up to 7%. And now he could hold 7% ego and be okay with it, because he felt like he deserved it. He felt like everything. It was a gift of ball. So if you're looking for ways to ground your ego, don't. I want you to feel the surge through your hands and go, look how much power I have. Man, I could really hurt someone with this. Yeah. Yeah. Say that. Go, wow, I could really hurt someone with this. I might want to be careful. I might want to learn how to properly clean this gun. I might want to learn how to keep this gun and respect it, and also be confident when I hold it. And how do you be confident when you hold it? You know the answer to that, right? You practice. You find a safe environment to practice in. Which means, this is what's beautiful about it, which means you stop talking shit about your ego, and you find people that are willing to accept you not talking shit about your ego. And that's going to be hard to find, because the people you've known the longest, if they don't like you talking about the ego, they're going to not like it for you to suddenly change ships on them. They're gonna fucking make you pay for that. You're gonna have to find new friends. But you start to understand that those friends that you had, you actually built so that they could keep your ego properly drained at all times. That's why you chose those people. So you could pretend like you're losing something, but you're not. I mean, and I don't mean to paint this like it's easy. You know, this could be your husband or wife. This could be. And in that case, there is a way, but it's a little bit different technique. It's sort of like sort of like having Bruce Lee tell a white belt how to, I'm not saying I'm Bruce Lee, just hear me out, like telling a white belt how to do a sweeping roundhouse kick. In other words, if you're still learning how to even hold your ego, it's going to be very, 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 very hard to convince a life partner that we should both have a better ego. But you could start by simply defending your ego, by defending someone else's. That's the best way to start. The next time you hear someone say something negative about ego, you don't have to disagree. That's too much energy. What you have to do is just make it slightly expensive for someone just to say that blindly and just say, I don't know if ego is actually the problem. I just don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about. That's all. I just, I hear how cool it is to talk shit about the ego and explain how bad it is, but it's just, I just been wondering lately, why is having pride in yourself bad? Like, seriously, like if you had pride in yourself, you would take better care of yourself, and you would take better care of yourself, then you would be able to help other people. You'd take care of other people. Everything around you, you would start to have respect and pride for your family lineage, your name, your reputation would all be imbued with your own pride, with how you feel about yourself, right? So you just do the math. So in front of these other people, you're just explaining why you're starting to question. And then if you really want a zinger, you can say, and Freud thought everyone wanted to have sex with his mother. Like he really thought that was normal. Like, why the fuck are we listening to that guy? Like maybe his hatred of the ego is kind of why he wanted to have sex with his mom. I mean, just a thought. And all you're doing is that you're saying, hey, the next time you want to come and help me drain my ego, because that's why I had you in my life, I no longer want that service. Do you still want to be friends? And just start that way. And if you do that enough, this huge long answer, so sorry, but if you do that enough, you will find that you don't want to ground your ego. You will find that you'll be going, and I do a lot of fucking simulating. Someone called me insightful at dinner yesterday. Like you'll notice that. And it's only because you just have so much more energy. You have so much more compassion. All of my compassion comes from my ego. That's why when I get attacked every day after the stream, you're the most egotistical, and it's just like, and isn't that a sign of how much this magic works? Because if someone's telling me how egotistical I am, I'm like thanking them. Like, it's not even like I have to type thank you. It doesn't do any good. It's just I can accept that prana and go, yeah, man. He senses it. He gets it. He sees that I'm glowing. And it's the person with no ego that has jealousy. That's why Lord technology lost its jealousy in the Old Testament. Lord was jealous in the beginning, wasn't he? He gained more followers, didn't he? He gained more ego. He was no longer a jealous God. He became a merciful God. That's not fucking proof right there. I don't know what is. Damn, I need to remember that. It's all about ego, I think. I know that sounds insane to say that. It does. But I just mean it's life force, your beating heart. The more ego you have, I think even how they say some people have big auras. I think it's that, like, if your heart, there's one thing for your heart to have a heartbeat, but it's another for you to have amplitude, for you to have that essence behind it, And it feels to me that if you had more of that essence, more of that ego, I'm trying to show my face to show, just like, yeah, man, yeah, not like in a violent way, but just like, let's do this, let's raise this barn, that what's really happening is this pumping is pushing ether out to a certain distance and coming back, and you're constantly creating this energy field around you. And so the stronger your heartbeat is, the further out your field goes, which gives you that bubble. And when I walk into the post office, people give me more space than others. It could be my smell, it could be my appearance, or it could be my ego. People give me more swath than they used to. And if I saw the kid who walked in the other day, the post office, with a mask on and was waiting in line to go into the inner room because he didn't want to be in the outer room when someone was in the inner room because he could be sick. And people walked all over him. One guy passed him, just walked right past him and cut in line. And that guy wasn't a dick. He didn't see him. He just saw this tiny ego field, just a few inches out of his chest, right? Actually, probably inside his chest. Poor kid. Doesn't want anyone to see his ego. So it's just this tiny little thing. Right on, Bill. Thank you. I definitely would like to elaborate more next opportunity when I have a mic set up. And for communicating my big T truth and tell you the story of my ego. Yeah, man, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I forget what I was gonna say. It's tricky, the podcast stuff.
Anybody got anything? Anything?
I don't know if I'm- Can you hear me? I don't know if this is okay. So I feel like when you start to wake up, I don't know if this happened to everybody, but it happened to me. When you kind of start to wake up, you sort of feel like that was a blessing, right? Because you're being given the eyes to see or whatever, which then gives you a huge responsibility. Sort of, you feel like, oh my God, I've been given this blessing. So now how can I help share it with the world to help other people wake up or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I think I heard the other James actually say something like that. Like he took a time out and then has come back so that he can help other people. And I think that is where a lot of us are. Like, what is my role now? How do I help somebody? You can have a big ego because you've got great, big, wonderful books out there and a podcast you're doing every day. You're helping people every day. So it does help your ego swell because you're doing something awesome. And for those of us that haven't found like our connection to what our role is, you know what I'm saying? It starts to feel like I try to share a little bit, and the little bit that I share kind of gets, you know, people look at you like you've got 19 heads. You're the only one there. Nobody else is backing up what you're saying. They all cluster up and say, what the hell happened to her? What drugs is she taking?
Mm-hmm.
We might need to do an intervention for her. And before it's all said and done, they've got you in a freaking, you know what I'm saying? Like, they've got you now doubting yourself. And none of that was really what you started your journey to do. You really, truly felt like, I had worked in the White House during 9/11. So I saw things that other people didn't get to see. So I should share that with people. It turns out not to be like,
Go ahead. Sorry.
you know, it turns out not to be like the greatest story to share with other people because they really think that you should be grateful that you got an opportunity to work in the White House. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it is like always a double-edged sort of a sword. And really, I think the biggest mission is we want to help other people.
Yeah.
So put my name on your books and I'll feel better about myself. I'm just kidding.
And I would say that the reason why, maybe the reason why you weren't feeling like you're doing more is because you were trying to do things for other people and you're not doing things for yourself.
Okay.
Because when you turn yourself into, well, I'm here to help other people, you have to evacuate yourself in certain ways to focus on what someone else would want or need. So you're living your life now as someone who's constantly rendering someone else's adrenals. And I would imagine that if you did that long enough all the time, you'll end up like me with my ex-wife. What I mean is that in a relationship with someone that you just really want to make them happy,
you sacrifice yourself.
Yeah, but not in like a noble way.
Yeah. Got you. Yeah, exactly.
awful, oh,
Yeah.
like that kind of way. And so it becomes impossible. And then you find out later, much later, I wasn't even doing that to help them.
Right.
Doing that to drain my own fucking power, to drain my own energy. It is true that now, only over the last 2 months, 2 months, yeah, only over the last 2 months have I been able to even consider myself making a living now from writing books
Okay.
like that. It was 2 years, 3 years of solidly doing nothing but things for myself,
Got you.
finding exactly what it is, noticing that I don't fit in the corporate world. It's not because I'm brave, it's because I'm just not fitting. I'm losing opportunities, things that used to be easy for me to get, gigs and stuff like that, I'm not able to get, considered problematic, or I'm having to apologize because I overstepped my bounds, or things like that. I'm just noticing, wow, I don't fucking fit here anymore. And instead of me trying to please them, which just would have made me more bankrupt, I said, what the fuck can I do? And it was at that point that I was just like, since everything's going so horribly, I might as well write a book, because I've always wanted to write a book, and it's just like, I'm not afraid of that not working out anymore. Energetically, I realized I was no longer, I didn't give a shit if it failed. I didn't care if I wrote a book and no one read it. I didn't fucking care. Writing it, if people read it or not. People have been letting me down my whole life, is what I told myself. Why the fuck would I care if they didn't read the book? I'm just going to write it. And when I die, I'll know, well, I did this. I did this. And one of the things I did was I wrote a book. And it was only out of that selfish act. It was only out of that selfish act that enough people said, hey, do it again. I was like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
Mind control. And then all of a sudden, it
Got you.
took off. It really like enough people were interested in it, in the sense of they were writing me, telling me how much it moved them, that I suddenly
You were changing lives without trying to change lives.
It put me in a different gear. Absolutely. My gear completely. I was no longer in first gear. I went into second. I went into third gear. It just it definitely changed. But I'm not saying but. It definitely helped. If you find yourself in first gear, if you guys feel like you're in first gear, or if you feel like you're in reverse, or if you feel like you haven't gotten in gear yet, that's okay. I think the key to that is to, man, be self-full. Really focus on you. What action?
Yeah.
Action that makes yourself doing every day. Well, like not in a, how do you see yourself moving your body every day? Start there. What does my body look like when I'm happy? What is it doing? What is it physically doing? And my body has always looked like, well, I'm reading the fucking shit out of things. Like I'm intensely researching something. I noticed that's where I've always, like, people say, oh, what's your favorite? A lot of people are like, I just want to be happy. But when you ask me that, if I picture what is my favorite emotional state that I'm in, it's not actually happy.
Got you.
My favorite emotional state is when I've suddenly realized, and someone's talking, and I'm about to share it with them, but I have to politely wait, because what they're saying is that anticipation of gnosis is sex and heroin.
Got you.
Time mixed with the best kind of meal you could ever imagine, like all at the same. That anticipation of discovery just really gets me off. In a big energetic way. And so I wanted to have a life where I could do that. And I noticed that if I was to write, writing, I could do that. I can't a research grant. I can't sell people on this idea for a computer interface that I had, but I could write about it.
Yeah.
So I found my passion by being selfish.
Got you. That makes perfect sense.
Doing right now. Yeah. You should
I was going about that backwards. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. It should be about me and not.
It should. It'll make you more generous. It'll
Yeah.
fix everything when you're able to
Got
do
you. Thank you. You've just fixed that problem.
it. Good.
You know what I find a great way to fill your ego is acting on your own morality, like whatever that may be. I was fortunate in my household where my father was a giant of a man. I don't mean he was huge, but he just had big energy. He could fill a room and affect a crowd without even trying. I don't even know if he understood that that's what he was doing, but it's what he did. So for me, like acting on my own morality is daily, just kind of taking care of myself. Like I feel better when I go to the gym, or I feel better when I eat right. But another thing is, there was a video James posted the other day where there was 3 white women. They were cleaning graffiti off of a building.
Yeah.
And someone approached them and tried to publicly shame them for what I would consider to be doing the right thing. You're cleaning up mess. How could that possibly be wrong? So acting on my own morality, I would look at that as a welcome opportunity to just challenge the idiocracy of that situation. And how could you be so foolish as to say cleaning up this graffiti is somehow wrong? And furthermore, call it white privilege, because if standing out here with a bucket of soap and water is somehow a privilege, please explain yourself.
Right.
So, but somebody could be viewing that, even their friends, and say, wow.
Yeah.
Your video stopped again. I mean, your audio stopped again.
Yeah, I lost you.
James, your audio stopped again.
I hope you guys can hear me, but
Your audio stopped again. Like just like last time, where you were going great, all of a sudden it stopped. It did that again.
yeah, I don't know what's up my internet. I'm gonna have to take a look at that because I want these Zoom meetings to work. But yeah, that's basically what I'm saying, that you might be able to impact somebody just by standing up for what's right, even if it's just 1 or 2 people. We're all connected. It might have a domino effect. So I always feel better about myself when I do stand up and say something, and I feel like it inspires other people to see my point and maybe do it themselves.
Yep. You burn calories when you go against the norm like that, and so you have to stake your claim, and those calories are going to come from your ego. So choose your battles wisely, and pretty soon you'll have people will be used to what it is that you normally want, and they'll start to respect that more. It'll take a while the longer someone knows you, but that's definitely the key, I think. So. As you guys, as all of us, I definitely appreciate how important it is to focus on helping others wake up. But it's a trap, man. It's a trap because if you can really picture what you would look like fully awakened, I think you're looking at what Christ looked like to others. I think you end up like that. And we should all want to be that compassionate. We should all want that, even if we can't have it, even if we believe, because our religion, makes sure that we believe that we'll never reach that, or that it's unattainable. It's not unhealthy. It's not unholy to want, like really firmly believe that if you could do it just right, that you could reach that. The way I think of it is that with the right amount of pride, the proper life, you have a posture. And when you're ashamed of yourself, your posture's bent over. And when you're proud of yourself, you have straighter posture. And when you're around other people, if you're bent over, you're going to encourage others to bend over. And if you're around other people and you're straight, you're going to encourage others to be straight. But Our spine is like an instrument, a sacred instrument. And if it's tuned just right, if all 33 of the vertebrae are in exactly the right position, not just X, Y, but also like X, Y, and Z, all three of those ratios, plus the orientation, which is a whole other 3 vectors of spin, in all 33 of them. If all 33 of those vectors align through right action, right life, you become fully compassionate. You've reached the right understanding. And so if you can carry that for a sec, you raising your vibration is the art of raising your posture. It's the art of improving your posture. And what is posture but really an expression of your pride, of yourself, of your sense. It's I used to sing in a boys' choir. Maybe this is part of why it is, but I used to sing in a boys' choir. We sang in Notre Dame, we sang in Westminster Abbey, we sang St. Paul's Cathedral, we sang for the Queen. Fuck, we sang with Tina Turner, Kenny Loggins. I mean, just all the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. We sang at the White House. And doing that job, every summer we travel all over the world and sing. And I was ingrained in me for 10 years I had to have good posture, because if I had good posture, I sang well. And it's having good posture is hard. It fucking hurts. Like, it really hurts to keep posture on at all times. And it especially hurts if you're not in shape. If you don't have the right shape, you get tired and you slump. And if you're not a singer, you don't know that, but maybe if you're a runner, you know that. You know that the more you run, the more tired you get. You slump. You start to hurt. But when you slump, your personality slumps too. You start to question. Your spine is literally a question mark. It goes from an exclamation point to a question mark. Think about the meaning of that. To slump is to question. To be erect is to know. It's all the evidence is there. And if you could hit that spine, all 33 vertebrae in perfect tune, I think that you would become the living cross. I think this is what the Gospel of Thomas is about. I hope I'm not offending anyone here, but you become the Christ. And you become that. And the reason why we have a dogma, the reason why we have certain aspects of our religion that make that impossible, that claim that there's only one Jesus and he's the begotten Son of God and born in a manger in immaculate conception. The reason why we have that is because we don't want that potential, or we don't want to claim that potential. We don't want to claim that we could ever be that compassionate. Because if we could truly become that compassionate, we start to look at where the fuck we are right now. Like where we are right now versus where we could be. And it's just too uncomfortable. And so because of that, we have invented this story that none of us would ever even have the equipment to reach that high. And it makes us feel better. It's self-soothing. And that SEAL trainer is waiting on the beach for us. He's waiting for us to get up. But we found another reason to stay down. We said, no, that dude who ran 100 miles before lunch, that was Christ. That's like a supernatural being. That's not me. I've ran 4. That's enough, dude. I'm tired. Think about how many calories we save if we can invent that story and sell it to ourselves. Do you understand? And the reason why we can sell it to ourselves is because we've disassociated. Because half of our blood cells have declared mutiny on the other half of us and said, we can get this guy to stop working if we sell this idea. If we can find a service that helps us sell this idea, none of us have to fucking run 100 miles. And the reason why, ask yourself now, here's some serious fucking truth if you think about it. Ask yourself why your blood cells are committing mutiny. Because the answer is because their captain the fucking pussy. it's sorry, that's crude. Their captain keeps phoning it in, right? I mean, the captain in his stateroom, he's fucking squirting off, you know? He's not fucking watching the helm, is he? He's a shitty captain. And so of course we're going to be in the forecastle of the ship, you know, throwing dice and plotting whatever. Let's take a rowboat out, man. Let's go back to that island and get some whores and you know, it's like that. That's what happens when you evacuate yourself to the stateroom, right? That's what happens. And the whole time you're in this giant ship and the captain's like, man, I wish I didn't have this many crew. That's what's happening. You're just like, I wish I didn't have this many crew, man. If I wish I just had a rowboat with like 3 guys. Yeah. And I could pick the weakest guys and they would just do what I say. That would be so much better. Because right now, those fuckers are down in the forecastle plotting against me. And it's like, I don't want to go out there and bust some heads and declare myself captain of this ship. I'm not worthy. That's why. I would do it, but I'm not worthy. It's because I'm too racist. That's why I can't be captain of the ship. Can't have that. Can't have that at all, right? It's so crazy, man. It's not even crazy. It's completely sane. If you look at the SEAL trainer, man, he's just watching. It's just like, whenever you're ready, man, go back to running. We're just like, no, this is good. I got a lot more excuses, and they're just like, yeah, I bet you do. And we'll come up with them, you know? Like those kids you see that think trash is bad, and they fill themselves up, you know, they take garbage bags to themselves, and they fill it with trash all day. They're glorifying no responsibility. They're fetishizing. I want no responsibility. I do not want to be responsible for producing or creating or changing anything. I am ashamed of it, right? I am actually ashamed of it is what it is. And it works perfectly because we have a society that creates masochism in the street where we get to go out and just flog ourselves in public in front of each other, you know? Just look how shitty I am. Oh yeah, look how shitty I am. God, you are shitty. Yeah, I know, but you could be shittier too. How do I do that? Dude, I got a lot of excuses. I'm the tinker. Just open up your coat. You got all kinds of ways to drain the shit out of you. What you want? I don't care, man. I just had to get back into 7%. Okay. Got you covered. It's brilliant. That's what makes dojo work so hard, right? Do you realize how easy this would be if the fucking SEAL trainer would just like force us to go, right? Well, like if he would say, if you don't do it now, you're going to die. Like that would be his way, right? Be like, here's a gun. I'm holding it to your head. If you don't fucking grow and reach your full potential now, I'm going to kill you. Like, I mean, if it could work that way, it'd be fucking brilliant. Like there'd be no need for this. Life would take 3 seconds. You wouldn't have to be born young and all trusting. You just be born as a full adult. As soon as you're born, someone's got a gun to your head. Do you want to be sovereign? Bang. If you say no. Do you want to be sovereign? Bang. You didn't answer quick enough. You want to be sovereign? Bang. You just keep dying and coming back, keep dying and coming back, keep dying until you finally go, yes. But it doesn't work that way. Because anybody would win that. Anybody eventually would pass that. But God's not looking for the 144,000. God, that's got to sound awful for me to say. I don't think that's what God wants. I think God wants the other ones. The ones that are like, is there another option? Just a question. Because those are the ones that are reaching for Prometheus, you know? They're like, even if a freaking raven cuts my liver out every morning for eternity, it was worth it. It was worth it. I mean, think about what that takes to find someone who would say what it's worth it. Do you see what I mean? That's a diamond in a fucking gem, right? I mean, right? I mean, that's hard to find someone that would have enough ego. Think about it. Enough self-pride to say it was worth it. Not someone that was willing to sacrifice everything, because they would never find it worth it. They would never get to that point where they could grab the fire out of it. I'm talking about the one that had to reach that point where they took the fire, right? Because God's holding that flame going, here's the fire. You want to take it? You just got to pull it out of my hands. And you're like, but you're not letting go. And God's like, nope, not letting go. You're going to have to pull it out of my hands. And they're like, but that means you're not giving it to me. God's like, nope, not giving it to you. But here it is. And you're just like, is this a trick? And God's like, I don't fucking know. I'm not going to tell you. Do you want it or not? And you're just like, I don't know, man. You're confusing the shit out of me. And God's like, yeah, it'll be here. It'll be here when you want it. There's no time limit either. That's what makes it so hard. There's no time limit. So we can just sit around just going, I'm too racist. I can't trust myself. No way, no way, no way, no way. Right? It's hilarious. The whole thing's hilarious. They call it a divine comedy for a reason. Talking the fuck off. I didn't mean to talk this much. Does anybody got anything? All of you been muted. So if you're saying something, unmute yourself.
I got here late. I didn't know you'd started already. So, and I don't always check my email. So, but I'm enjoying the chat as I'm being completely inundated with weather.
Yeah, it looks like the rain's falling. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we have some lightning and stuff going on too. But the reason I even turned on my camera, I was just listening, is because we had clouds coming from the ground up. And it was almost like, looked like a tornado starting. Never seen anything like that here. So, but I didn't mean to take over. I'm just listening. So I like what I'm hearing. Pretty cool.
Right on.
I listened to your talk today with Benjamin, and it's fascinating that whole thing. This dojo exactly. That's what it is, man. Our villain has become. It's no longer the James Bond villain. He's now the Austin Powers villain, because the stuff that our villains are doing are so over the top at this point. You know, like,
Yep.
What do we throw at them now? Murder hornets. Okay, now let's do riots. Now let's have the nurses dance. So that's not doing. Let's have the National Guard dance. Okay, and it's just like you said. You hit me with your fist, I hit you with a chair. I hit you with a chair, you hit me with a ladder. And it's really waking up, quote, normal people. People that believe in a lot of the stuff that's still ridiculous are saying there's something weird about the whole Kanani thing. They're at least waking up to that one. So, yeah, it's pretty wild. A gift of ball. You've really opened my eyes and thoughts to what we can be thankful for. I mean, it's almost going back to the books of Job. You know, no matter what was thrown at him, he never forsake God. He still accepted it and thanked him for his blessings. And I really feel that's what our enemy is doing. They're so over the top. We're not the cool Batman villain from the movies. We're the Batman villains from the 1960 TV show, you know, that were in the crazy outfits you couldn't miss. It was a villain.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that too.
And it helps. It's helping us. And where you said, if he just pulled a gun and said, okay, make your choice or I kill you. Yeah, you're right. That would make it really short. But at the same time, if this really is like the sorting hat in Harry Potter kind of thing, and God only wants the people that really want to hang with him, putting a gun to someone's face, you can make a decision, and then later on you can change your mind and stuff. We're doing this as our free will. If we chose to hang with him and stay here and do whatever we're going to do with him, we want to. Because everyone else is following the nonsense and putting a mask on. And it's sort of the sorting process. Gryffindor, Slytherin, whatever you want to call it. Mask, no mask. Red team, blue team. So, anybody there still?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was talking, but I realized I was muting. I was just agreeing with you that the Slytherin house is that's a good analogy for sure. The sorting hat, the masks are a sorting hat. It's in your face, man. I still don't see people waking up though. And I do. I definitely see people waking up. But hey, not all of us are going to see. That was out of the chat. Not all of us are going to see people waking up. In fact, I would think that some of our energy is going to want to not see people wake up. And that's going to help us wake up by those people not seeing people wake up. So all of this becomes necessary. There's no wrong view here. If it doesn't look like people aren't waking up, then that's part of the aperture. And that's cool, man. It's not even invalid. From my perspective, they are, but I only have one aperture. And I'm trying to just have more compassion for other people's aperture. I wish I was better at that. I'm trying to have more compassion for, not compassion being nice, by the way. I was like a really big jerk to somebody right before this conference started. This person sent me a message, and I always been kind of just sort of had this feeling about them. And in my simulation, in my adrenal simulation, I decided what they were was not good for me, was not good for my field. And I blasted them out of my field. And I didn't use any cruel names. I didn't say you're this or you're that. I was just like, I don't want you in my field. And I'm blocking you because I just don't want to fucking see this shit in my mailbox anymore. It's just, I'm done. And immediately the reaction is, well, you don't have enough compassion. And I understand that aperture. I understand the aperture of thinking that compassion means tolerance, right? This is why I keep saying compassion is not consent, because there are people that think compassion means tolerance. Well, if you had more compassion, you would tolerate me. And my answer is no, because I don't think compassion is consent anymore. I can have compassion for you, but not tolerance. I can do that. It's profound. It's a cool trick. It's compassion and consent means I can pat my head and rub my belly at the same time. It's a totally bizarre trick to some of you. Some of you are like, that's wizardry. Put that man on a pike. We must burn him. But the rest of you are like, that seems like a trick I could probably do. And you try it on, you're like, this trick works in certain instances. And so as I cut that person off, they're sending me email then after that saying, how dare you do this and how you dare you do that? And all I could see was compassion for them. All I could see is I get how they would feel this way. That's all I can do is just see how they feel this way. And then when the names started falling in, I realized this is just confirming everything that I thought. I needed this person in my life at the time because they were helping me drain my ego just enough to where I would feel this way. And I've suddenly changed the prana economy on them, and they feel like I ripped them off. And I did. I ripped them off. I stopped the prana economy that we had together. So it's not compassion. It's price changing. That's what I did. All I did was change the price for it. And that's going to hurt feelings. But if you're in business for yourself, you know that's what happens when you change your prices. It's just nature doing business. It's how the prana economy works. I'm talking about the prana economy business, the energy business. You know, if you want to go see your mom has a certain prana economy with you. And if you want to have it be a good visit, you can't stand your ground in every single instance. It's just not going to work. You got to use your compassion to see her compassion. And then if you measure it right, you'll find what are the issues that I can meet her on. And by meeting her on those issues, we can still have a good time. It becomes more of it's a compassion dance, really, because you're changing what you're willing to accept on the fly with each person. And you can't do that if your morals aren't going to do that, but your compassion will. And that's why compassion isn't consent, because compassion is rendering someone's adrenals, right? It's looking at life through their aperture. That's all it means. And once you see that aperture, you realize, I can't talk about forest people if that's it. I can't talk about UFOs, or I can't talk about Lord technology. Or there's certain ways that you're not going to make a connection that way. So why try? You can connect in other ways. But that's why if you go back to stalking your own energy, it fixes it all. Stalk your own energy. Notice when you lose energy. How do you notice when you're losing energy? When you're bored as fuck someone is draining you. Someone or something is draining you. If you guys find yourself really bored, I need you to picture that as a sucking wound. Someone is sucking energy out of you, whether it be a task, a boss, a relationship you've set with someone, a teacher, or a friend. That's step one. Look for when you're bored. When you're bored, you're draining your ego massively. Massively. It's a big one. When you really notice you're bored, it's a big one. When you find yourself saying, uh-huh, 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 that is giving alms. That's you throwing Mardi Gras beads off your float. Uh-huh, uh-huh. And you're going to run out of beads. I know you think you have 1 million and you'll never run out, but you will. You will quick. So look at those two things. Because when you're saying uh-huh, 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 you start to feel this is tiring to say uh-huh. And you're like, oh, I don't want to say this again, but uh-huh. You're like, I don't want to say this again, but uh-huh. That you're being drained. And the reason why you don't see it is because you're listening to the words. Because you're like, yeah, but he's talking about a topic I love to talk about. Or, yes, but he's telling me how he did the right thing. Or it's no. Pay attention to the emotions of how it feels, guys. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to that and nothing else. You will reach someone deeper. Even though you're not listening to their words, you're listening to their energy, you will reach someone deeper. You will. They could say something you have no idea what they're talking about, but you can answer with an emotional plea or request that shows you were listening the entire time, and they fools them every time. That's how I change subjects with people. I'll be listening to someone go on and on about this issue, and all I'm doing is looking underneath. I'm just looking at that energy underneath going, what is that? What is that? There's a lack, and there's just egos leak, and then there's just, they think pride's bad, they feel wrong, and then I'm just like, so how does it feel to blah, blah, blah? And next thing you know, now they're talking about something else, but they're still there because we're just dealing on the emotion now. We've gone below deck, man. We are down in the keel of that ship. And I'm fucking with them deep in that water going, is this where you want this rudder to go? And all of a sudden they're just open like, I like the cut of your jib, son. Let's go here. Let's see where this goes. And then we're having fun because now we are sailing together. I fucking hate it when someone's telling me, oh, this is going to sound bad, but when someone's always filling your ear with things that happen to them all the time, that is actually a drain because you're having to watch someone paint the picture of what happened to them when you guys could be living life right now. You could be exploring right now, but you can't because you're having to listen to what happened to them yesterday with the person that they want you to come back with them. Do you know why? Because they want to find themselves and they're like, I don't know where the fuck I am. Yesterday, this gardener came and can you come back here with me? Do you see me? Do you see me anywhere around here? And you're just like, fuck no, dude. This is the most boring thing I've ever heard. And the reason why it's boring is because they're draining that energy out of you. Someone can tell you a story about what happened yesterday and you're not bored. That can happen too, right? You know that. It's because they've taken you with them and they were there. They were so there that they have enough presence there to bring you back with them. And you're just like, and then what happened? And then what? And I know you think it's about the story, but it's not. It's about their presence. What was their presence in that story? That's really what does it. That's why when someone tells you, oh, and someone almost got killed, boom, your adrenals are open. You've dilated, which means you are fucking present. That's why anyone you tell that story to, they're going to feel like, man, you were present there. That's an interesting story. I hope that makes sense because we all think that it's because of the words that were in the story and the storyline itself and the plot, but it's not. It's the emotion underneath it. You guys know this. You'll see the same movie on the screen and one movie will be boring and another one will be well done. And it has nothing to do with this. It's about how was that conveyed? How was that sent? It's so important. And how it's sent is going to be a measure of how much ego you had in that moment or how present you were. I'm not saying those are exactly the same. Presence and ego aren't exactly the same, but I'm saying they're very, very correlated. They go in tandem all the time. that's why one person can have so many insights about hiking to a mountain and someone else is just tired, right? It's like, that was tiring. The other one's like, did you see all the faces? I'm imagining what it was like to be an Indian and running through here. Did you see that deer tracks and the poop? And they're just like, yeah, I stepped in some shit a while back, so I'm tired. It's a totally different experience, right? Who's more present? Who has more ego, right? Because the person with enough ego is able to simulate as they're walking through the trail. Even though they're losing calories by climbing a hill, they have all this extra ego where they can simulate the history, right? They're showing compassion for the land. They're like, land, how does it feel to be you? And then you start to imagine, God, wow, I'm just a passing deer, a two-legged deer, thousands of years of history. What does this land see? You're doing it as you're walking. All that takes ego. That all takes ego. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. If anyone has any questions or any final topics, I'm happy to take them. But otherwise, I think I'm going to call it a day on this one. Don't forget, you're all muted. All right. Getting some thank you, James, in the chat. If you guys like this, it seems like you did. I'd be happy to do this again. I really love the one-on-one interaction. It's healthy for me because it helps me think about just how to phrase things and how to talk about things. So I just want to say thank you for that. And yeah, thanks for joining me. I'm going to hit end meeting now, all. So last chance to say anything. Not that you have to, but that's how it's going to be. Because if not, if I wait, you guys will feel really uncomfortable because you're waiting for the thing to end. So I've learned that the hard way. So anyway. All right, guys. Happy Saturday. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.